my congratulations are in order because last Friday, my partner, him and I got married in Provincetown, Massachusetts, because as we all know, they don't allow same-sex marriages here in good old Indiana. But we're working on that. That's one thing to be fairly joyous about. I'm going to read 2 short stories tonight. On the flyer, it states that I write horror and dark fantasy. That is very true. So if that's what you're looking for tonight, you will not be disappointed. However, I sometimes get a little nervous before I read because I think that I think when you write horror, it's often presumed that what you put onto the page, whatever, sort of darkness and just disturbing story you put on the page, that's something that you carry with you all the time. And I'm not apologizing for my work, but I am saying that there are 2 separate things going on, that's fiction. It's not how I operate in my everyday life. But I do have to say I enjoy it. I wouldn't trade my beloved genre for anything else in the world. So I'm going to first read a fairly short piece called Because You Watched. I originally wrote this story, I'm going to date myself, when I was in college, and it's, there's that whole process when you write fiction that it's never really done. You finish a draft and you think you've polished it as much as you can, and you come back and look at it 3 months later and realize, this is awful, I could do better. So this is kind of an ongoing story that has never strayed too far from its original incarnation, but it's come a long way. And it's one that I'm proud of because it's won a few awards when I was in college. So without further ado, Because You Watched. Taze is nervous. I know he's nervous because he's kneading the bridge of his nose with his thumb and forefinger. A habit since childhood, I watched him as we grew up, wondering if the bone would gradually wither away, his hawk nose deflating until there was nothing left but a flap of skin like a limp balloon. He keeps talking, giving details, his hand partially obscuring his mouth. I only catch the tail end of his sentences and nothing makes sense. Our sister Lily had given birth. Crazy Lily. Lily, who would play in her own shit and throw it at you if you bothered her. Lily, who stood outside on feverish spring nights, her arms outstretched, claiming she was holding up the moon. Who's the father? I muttered. My body feels deflated, boneless. Already told you I don't know. He stops pinching his nose and places his calloused hand onto the cheek table, his palm upward, fingers slightly curled, inviting. Does he want me to place my hand in his, and give a gentle squeeze and pretend that I care? Before Taze's phone call this morning, I had not seen him since our parents' funeral 6 years ago. And even now, I really don't want to be here, a dingy booth at Waffle House, huddling beneath the gaze of fluorescence. I self-consciously yank my hands from the table and knock off my silverware. Taze leans over sideways and reaches out to grab them. The sleeve of his dark jacket rises, revealing his pale arm, bluish veins and lines of ink crisscrossing sporadically. He picks up the silverware and sets it onto the table. Like it? What? The tattoo. He pulls his jacket sleeve all the way up to his elbow and sticks his arm out. The scars were already there, he says. I decided to make constellations. His stars were tiny pinhead scars, old track marks. I nod as he pulls the sleeve down. Nice, I say sullenly. Taze shrugs. Thought it was a good idea at the time. He glances over his shoulder. I stare at my plate of food. The silence is heavy, and I imagine the space between us tastes like metal. Well, what are you going to do, he asks. It just had to come to this. I'm the oldest, I have to be the responsible one. I have to go back. I'm not going to do anything. She called you, Taze. His face darkens and wrinkles form around his mouth and eyes. He ages in seconds before me. You know I can't go back there, he whispers. The distance between us expands and grows denser. It becomes a throbbing, living thing. I feel its pressure against my throat, gluing my tongue to the roof of my mouth. And you think I can, and even if I could, I wouldn't want to. I'm almost screaming. I let out a sigh and ask if she sounded okay. He shrugged slightly, his head still bowed. I don't know, I guess. She sounded like she really knew what was going on. I thought it was kind of weird. Well, no shit, Sherlock. He opens his mouth, hesitates, and then speaks. Maybe I didn't know everything after all. She said she wanted to see you. Bullshit, I hiss. You just don't want to go out there. I swear that's what she said. If she hadn't, I wouldn't have bothered you. Bothered me? Is he trying to make me feel guilty? He is just as responsible as I am. I thought the two of us shared an unspoken pact. We would keep the past in the past. He reminded me of things I didn't want to remember, and I did the same for him. Therefore, it would be best if we pretended that none of us existed, especially Lily. I stare at the floor, sour linoleum, dirt smudges, and more grease. I look at my brother. He licks his chapped lips, taps his fingers onto the table. His eyes are too bright. What are you on this time? I whisper, looking at the dirt-crusted crescents of his fingernails. Droplets of sweat appear on his forehead and upper lip. He glances at the table, then the waitress walking by, then out the window, the floor, and his hands. Everything but me. That's just the problem. I'm not on anything. Well, congratulations. My first day off in weeks, and I would rather be at work. I wish you would shut up. I didn't, because I didn't have time. It's just, I'm not that bad yet. I mean, I guess I didn't want to. I wanted to talk to you. I guess I should be glad. He makes a failed attempt at a grin. I get up to leave, and he reaches over the table, puts his hand on mine. I try to pull away from him, but his palm is sticky with sweat, his touch electrifying, like grabbing a live wire. My bones shiver in my skin. I scream at him to stop, but the word comes out in a whimper. An electric current flows through my muscles, my knees weaken, and I sink into my seat. He releases my trembling hand, and the vibration ebbs from my body and dissipates into the air. I can see it floating away like blue-tinged smoke. Sorry. It's okay, I reply, rubbing my damaged hand. I look at my brother, his eyes clamped shut, fingers massaging his nose. I'm going home. I'm going to where Lily is, and I'm taking him with me. We sit in our booth and talk until the sky darkens. Taze is easily convinced. The tension slowly crumbles, its brains floating away in the undertow of our conversation. I missed him. We do not discuss Lily, our parents, his addiction, or our childhood. We talk about safe things. Shitty jobs, stupid TV shows, music. We like a lot of the same bands, and for a moment I am glad that he called me. The conversation lulls, and I glance out of the grime-coated windows. The moon is full. Is Lily outside right now with both arms in the air, or is one cradling an infant? It comes back to me then why we are here, and I look at him, and we both know that it's time to begin our journey. The drive to my apartment is relatively silent. I call into work and fake a watery cough. I probably won't be coming in tomorrow. I ask Taze if he needs to call anyone, and standing in the corner of my living room, staring out the window into the darkened streets below, he mutters, "Fuck him." I grin, pack a few things, and set out extra cat food for Dante, who hisses at me disapprovingly. Be quiet. You don't pay rent. As we leave the apartment, I start to get the feeling that this is going all too well. That my initial apprehension was part of a script, and Taze's performance as the drug-addled yet lovable younger brother could win him an Oscar. The drive home takes 3 hours. The distance is a disappointment. I thought I'd gotten farther away than that. We stop only once to grab food, coffee, and Taze's cigarettes. By the time we get there, his shuddering has progressed to outright tremors. His hair is plastered to his scalp with sweat. His eyes bulge from his skull. As we pull into the driveway, I ask him if he wants to go to the hospital. I already know what his response will be. "I'm okay," he says between clenched teeth, spittle punctuating each word. "Let's just get this over with." "Get this over with," I mutter as I exit the car. I turn toward the house, and for a moment I am paralyzed. I feel sick, as if I'm going to faint. I can't catch my breath. Far away, Taze is having a coughing fit. She is sitting on the lip of the porch, the light from a bare bulb above beaming onto her. So bright, she looks unreal. She looks so normal, not hurt at all. I still cannot move, and I think Taze has vomited. She stands and smiles. I glance over at Taze, doubled over, retching. I walk around the car to him and put my arm around his waist. I ignore the jut of his hip bones, the fact that he is so thin I could probably pick him up and toss him back into the car. I am about to whisper in his ear that we should leave, that we have gone far enough. We came, we saw, we freaked the fuck out. But before I can get the words out, he stands and yells, "Hey, Lily!" Traitor. She is clapping her hands and jumping up and down. When she lands, she sticks her hips out as if she's dancing, and the saggy porch groans in protest. "Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Come on, come on." How can she still live in this house, after what we did to her? How can she stand it? As we cross the yard, I stumble on upturned roots and old, rain-stained, broken toys. Taze walks ahead of me, and I want someone to hold my hand. He reaches the porch first and leans over to give Lily a hug. The warning almost surges out of me. Don't touch her, but I hold it back. As I walk up the steps, the words are burning my tongue. She turns to me and grins. "Yay, Marissa came too. Let's go in the house." She turns to the front door and Taze follows. "Wait, I have to get my stuff from the car." A frown clouds her face, then clears quickly. "Oh, you can get it later. I've got so much to show you." I start down the steps. "No, I'll get it now. Go on inside." I hear the wooden steps creak as they enter the house. I want to run to that car, but I slow myself. Imagine I am walking through syrup. I open the driver's side door and slump into the seat. I could just leave. Taze seems happy enough here. I could come out again tomorrow and pick him up. He would tell me they ate burnt cookies, drank sickeningly sweet Kool-Aid, and watched TV. He would tell me that the baby is cute. I slip my hand into my pocket and feel the reassuring, jagged coolness of my keys. I take them out and put the car key into the ignition. What the hell am I doing? I suddenly feel weightless and porous, like I could float up out of my body and through the car roof. I snatch my keys from the ignition. Maybe this will be okay. It will be okay. I glance towards the house. Every Saturday morning, our mother and father took 3 hours out of their day to clean the exterior and keep the garden. Back then, I didn't understand why, but looking at the house in the bright light of a full moon, with its chipped and peeling paint, dusty, cracked windows, withered bushes like a barbed wire fence around the porch, I can see why they took so much time. Once upon a time, this house was beautiful. But this isn't the same house anymore, and that's why she can live here. Things are so different now, she probably doesn't even remember what happened. I grab my bag from the back seat, sling it over my shoulder, and walk toward the house. The only sounds are my frantic heartbeat, the swish of dry grass against my jeans, and the crunch of dead leaves beneath my sneakers. This is the part of the movie where the really dumb guy asks, "It's quiet, almost too quiet," and then the monster jumps out and eats him alive. I open the screen door and am hit by a wave of foul air. I can hardly breathe and the smell gnaws at my nostrils. My eyes water and I have a coughing spasm. My stomach contracts, ready to spew its contents. I try to choke it off, but I'm heaving and my mouth fills with bile. I press my lips together, teeth digging in the skin. My gut wrenches once more and I let it all come up into the corner of the hallway. I cough a few more times, shake my filthy hands and wipe them on the knees of my jeans. Taze? I cannot see anything. I yell for Taze again. I glance around and the windows are boarded up haphazardly. I rub my eyes with the backs of my hands and my vision adjusts slowly to the darkness. Between the gaps of the barricaded windows, the light pours through like white honey. What the hell did she do to this place? This is what happens to the furniture in houses on the inside of shaken snow globes. We're back here. She sounds so goddamn cheery. I stumble toward the back of the house, one hand against the wall, streaking it with my vomit. I hear the metallic clatter of pots and pans. They must be in the kitchen. The smell is still assaulting me. How in the hell can Taze be so quiet? "Lily, I puked in your doorway. Sorry." She sticks her head out into the hall, her face expressionless, and then turns away. I lean against the kitchen doorway, and I see Taze's lower half on the floor. He must have fainted. The smell, his sickness, just being here. I could join him at any moment. Coughing, I ask, "Lily, what's wrong with Taze?" She ignores me, concerned with something in the oven. I walk over behind her as she opens the oven door. Smoke billows out in great gray waves. It burns my eyes and the smell is far worse. I fall to my knees and my innards clench with empty retching. My eyes shut against the smoke. I hear the screech of metal as she pulls the grate out of the oven. I wipe my streaming eyes and glance over at Taze. His face is a broken, bloody mess. She sounded like she really knew what was going on. Of course she knew. She always knew. I feel so goddamn stupid. I look up, and lying there on the baking sheet is her child, my niece or nephew, like a miraculous curl of cigarette ash. Lily holds the baking sheet in gloved hands and sets it on the counter. I hear the grate of metal against linoleum, the grate of the cast iron skillet being dragged from the counter to the space above my head. The room is coated in hair and flesh and blood and bone. She didn't forget. None of us did. She turns to me, the skillet rising higher, her arms spread out for moon holding. Lily, because you watched. Hey, watch this. It's my dad. He's undone the lock and he's about to open the basement door. He's still wearing his Disneyland t-shirt. My brother and I are seated on the floor and we're holding hands. He's staring at his knees and rubbing his sunburned nose. My mother is at the table with the yellow legal pad. The used pages flip beneath the cardboard, bunched at the top like a Nautilus shell. She's going to take notes to document the changes since the last time they brought my sister up. On the counter behind us, there's a camcorder pointed toward the door, the little red eye blinking. My father's hand turns on the doorknob, and I smell her before I can see her. Her skeletal hand grips the lip of the top stair. My brother squeezes my hand, and my knuckles grind together. Mother is scratching away on the notebook. Father has his beach towel open in his arms, ready to pick Lily up and take her to the bathroom. Another dirty claw in her wheezing breath. Scratch, scratch goes the pen against paper. I stare at her hands decorated with sores and grime. Bones push against skin as she pulls herself up and she's staring at me. It's like I'm the only one in the room. It's like I'm the one who put her down there. Like I could have stopped them. She crawls into the kitchen, a moving pile of rags, and then flops onto the tile with her twinkling arm aimed at me. My father tosses the towel over her, scoops her up, and carries her away. My mother jots down a few more notes, then rushes after them. I get up and turn off the video recorder. I look at my brother and whisper his name. He won't look at me. The world is flashing red behind my eyelids. Lily is screaming. My father roars and there is the sound of leather popping against skin. I can hear Taze crying. They're dead. Taze and my father and my mother are dead. Lily killed her baby, but my father is still screaming, get up, and Taze is still wailing. I open my eyes. There's a small television screen about a foot away from my face. An old VCR sits on top of it. The image is trembling and my father is thrashing Lily with the belt. Lily is slumped almost to the ground, but my father holds one of her arms against his waist as he hits her naked back. She is silent. Her teeth are bared in a grimace, like her lips have been carved away. My brother's cries are disembodied on film. The picture shakes as he sobs. On screen, my father continues to beat her until he's exhausted. He flings her arm away and she slumps onto the floor. My mother sits on the couch, calmly taking notes. I cannot find myself. I look to the top of the screen and the camera angle has cut off the upper portion of my body. All I see are my skinny 12-year-old legs and the lower half of my Sunday school dress. We had come home from church and Lily had gotten out of the basement again. My father found her in the backyard, eating grass, too stupid to run any further. He dragged her back into the house, stripped her, and took off his belt. My mother ran upstairs to get the camcorder and made Taze hold it. The camera pans upward, and I'm staring at my reflection from 14 years ago. My face is formed of concrete. My eyes are as blank as old seashells. The image slides to the floor, and Taze's scuffed patent leather loafers dominate the screen. The picture jerks around wildly, then cuts off. The screen fills with static. Oh God, I whisper. I start to cry. I can't get my dead eyes to stop staring at me. I can't stop shaking. I can't stop wondering why I never did anything to stop them. Even if I was scared, even if they said they would do the same to me, she was my sister. I never let them hurt Taze. When he was trying to skateboard through the house and crash into the coffee table, I never let them hit him. I ran and picked him up, held onto him, and when Dad came in screaming, I told him it was just an accident, and I'd pay for it with my allowance. I never let them hurt Taze. I never let them hurt me. Maybe that's why they did it, because she'd let them. Because she never screamed when they hit her. Because sometimes she would stay in the basement for days by her own volition. Because when they put her down there, me and Taze would sneak downstairs and she'd be playing in the yellow boxes or talking to the walls. Because sometimes she enjoyed it. Because she never fought back. I cry harder and all of my muscles constrict at once. My hands clench into fist and my arms try to pull themselves forward, and I feel the grip of rope around my wrists and ankles. Pain explodes in the back of my head and seeps through my body. My eyes widen and I gasp for breath. I imagine swimming through it, the pulsing in my head crashing over me like waves, the tremors in my muscles like the tug of the tide. I float in and out of consciousness, and when I awake, the television's gone. I lay in the darkness as my body shifts slowly from feeling to numbness. I cannot tell if my eyes are open or closed. A vertical fan of light cuts through the shadows like a scalpel. Tendrils of pain unfurl in my neck as I crane to see the source. Only an outline, a mass of darkness at the top of the staircase. Then the silhouette splits and half of it crashes down the stairs. It is Taze's body. I look up at Lily and she's smiling again. She steps back from the doorway and the door slowly creaks forward, shrinking the fan of light. I hear the click of the lock as it slides into place, and part of me wants to scream. But then I remember that Lily never did. That's it. Sorry, my foot fell asleep.